The silence in our home was deafening.
It echoed the emptiness in our hearts.
Years passed, filled with laughter and love, but always with that one missing piece.
We yearned for the pitter-patter of little feet.
We tried everything, countless doctor visits, agonizing procedures.
Each failed attempt chipped away at our souls.
Adoption felt like our last resort.
We pored over countless profiles.
Each child deserving of a loving home.
Then we saw him.
His eyes mirrored the emptiness within us.
We knew, in that instant, he was meant to be ours.
The call came on a dreary Tuesday afternoon.
The voice on the other end was warm and professional, informing us that we had been chosen.
Chosen to be parents.
Chosen to give this precious boy a home, a family, a chance at a brighter future.
We were ecstatic, overwhelmed with a joy so profound it brought us both to tears.
We immediately began preparing his room, transforming it into a sanctuary filled with toys, books, and all the love we could muster.
The day we brought him home was the happiest day of our lives.
He was everything we had ever dreamed of and more.
He was the missing piece, the puzzle piece that completed our family portrait.
Little did we know, a darkness lurked beneath the surface, a secret that would threaten to shatter our newfound happiness.
As he grew older, we noticed subtle changes in him.
He became withdrawn, spending hours alone in his room.
His once vibrant artwork took on a darker tone, filled with disturbing imagery.
We initially dismissed it as typical teenage angst.
We tried talking to him, understanding his thoughts and feelings.
He would brush off our concerns, his voice devoid of its usual warmth.
The nightmares began shortly after his 10th birthday.
He would wake up in the dead of night, drenched in sweat, his screams echoing through the house.
When we rushed to his side, he would cling to us, his small body trembling uncontrollably.
He refused to speak about the nightmares, his silence amplifying our growing unease.
We consulted child psychologists, desperate for answers, but their explanations felt hollow.
We were losing him, slipping away from us like grains of sand through our fingers.
His once sunny disposition was eclipsed by a brooding silence.
His laughter, once the soundtrack to our lives, became a distant memory.
He grew increasingly distant, his presence both comforting and unsettling.
He was there, yet not truly present, lost in a world we couldn't access.
We tried everything we could to reach him, to penetrate the wall he had erected around himself.
We showered him with love, affection, desperate to remind him that he was safe.
But our efforts seemed to bounce off an invisible barrier, leaving us feeling helpless and increasingly terrified.
The darkness that had haunted his artwork and nightmares was seeping into his waking hours, casting a long, chilling shadow over our lives.
We were determined to uncover the source of his torment, to fight for the child we loved.
But we were ill-prepared for the horrifying truth that awaited us, a truth that would shatter our world and plunge us into a nightmare we never could have imagined.
As the years passed, a subtle shift occurred. His laughter, once a constant presence, became less frequent, replaced by an unsettling silence. He excelled in school, but his teachers noted a disturbing detachment. He preferred solitary pursuits, surrounded by books on mythology and the occult. His drawings took on a darker tone, filled with shadowy figures and ancient symbols. When questioned, he would shrug, his eyes evading ours. He developed an unnerving habit of finishing our sentences, echoing our thoughts. He would often pause at our doorways, his gaze lingering with an unnerving intensity. His presence, once joyful, now carried a weight of unspoken secrets.
One evening, while cleaning the attic, I stumbled upon a box filled with relics from my childhood. Among faded photographs and forgotten toys, I discovered a worn leather-bound diary. It belonged to my grandmother, who had passed away when I was young.
The diary chronicled her life on a remote island off the coast of Maine. One entry described strange occurrences, unexplained disappearances, and ancient symbols on trees.
As I closed the diary, a cold shiver ran down my spine. The symbols matched those in my son's drawings. It was as if a door had been thrown open, revealing a dark connection between our family's past and our son.
I knew I had to uncover the truth, to unravel the mystery that bound our family to this darkness.
My grandmother's diary had become an obsession. I devoured every word, each entry fueling my growing unease. Her descriptions of the island, once idyllic and serene, now painted a picture of creeping dread. The islanders, once a tight-knit community, had become withdrawn, suspicious. My grandmother, a woman of unwavering faith, attributed these occurrences to the work of evil forces, ancient spirits disturbed by some unknown transgression. She wrote of rituals performed under the cover of darkness, of sacrifices made to appease the angry spirits.
I shared my findings with my wife, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and urgency. Her initial reaction was disbelief, a desperate attempt to cling to the familiar, to the rational explanations that had sustained us through the years. But as I presented her with the evidence, the diary entries, the chilling parallels to our son's behavior, a look of dawning horror spread across her face. We had to act, and quickly, before the darkness consumed him completely, before it claimed him as its own.
Sleep became a distant memory, our nights consumed by fear and a growing sense of dread. One night, desperate for answers, I decided to return to the attic, drawn to the chest like a moth to a flame.
As I carefully lifted the lid, a musty odor filled the air, transporting me back to my childhood, to the comforting presence of my grandmother. Beneath a pile of yellowed linens, I discovered a hidden compartment. Inside, nestled amongst dried herbs and faded photographs, lay a small leather-bound book.
As I cautiously opened it, a name, scrawled in faded ink, leaped out at me. Ethan Blackwood.
The islanders regarded him with suspicion, whispering tales of his strange powers, his connection to the ancient forces that haunted their shores. My grandmother, however, viewed him with a mixture of fear and fascination. She believed he possessed a gift, a connection to the spiritual realm that allowed him to communicate with the unseen world.
Our son's unseen guest, the entity that whispered in his ear, that haunted his dreams, had a name, Ethan Blackwood. The following night, our son's nightmares reached a terrifying crescendo. His screams echoed through the house, each cry a shard of pure terror.
We pounded on the door, our voices hoarse with fear and desperation, but our pleas were met with an eerie silence. Finally, with a surge of adrenaline, I threw my weight against the door, splintering the wood, and we burst into the room.
The sight that greeted us sent a wave of icy terror through our veins. Our son was levitating above the bed, his small body bathed in an otherworldly light, his eyes glowing an unnatural yellow.
Books flew off the shelves, their pages rustling like frantic wings.
We watched in horrified fascination as our son, our sweet, innocent boy, became a vessel for something ancient and evil, his body contorting, his voice morphing into a deep, guttural growl that echoed through the room.
"Heed my warning," the voice boomed, its power shaking the very foundations of the house. "The boy is mine. He belongs to the island, to the ancient ones. Interfere, and you shall face their wrath."
The room plunged into darkness, and the weight of an ancient evil pressed down upon us, stealing the air from our lungs, silencing our screams. The island nights were alive with unseen eyes. Each gust of wind seemed to carry whispered threats. Each creak of the old cottage, a sign that we were not alone.
Desperate, we delved deeper into my grandmother's diary, piecing together clues, searching for a way to break the hold that Ethan Blackwood had over our son. One entry, barely legible, mentioned a ritual, an ancient ceremony performed under the light of a full moon.
Following the diary's cryptic instructions, we ventured deep into the island's heart, guided by the pale light of the moon. The forest, ancient and gnarled, pressed in on us, its branches clawing at our clothes, its shadows hiding unseen creatures. Finally, we reached a clearing, a circle of ancient stones bathed in an ethereal glow.
This was a place of ancient magic, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. It was both alluring and terrifying, its beauty masking a darkness that threatened to consume us all.
As we stepped into the circle, a cold wind whipped around us, extinguishing the lantern, plunging us into darkness. We were surrounded, unseen eyes watching our every move. A figure coalesced from the shadows, shimmering with an ethereal light. Ethan Blackwood, his features, etched with a sorrow that transcended time, held a strange familiarity.
You seek to sever the bond, but the bond is not a curse, but a lifeline.
He turned his gaze to our son, his eyes filled with a profound sadness.
The boy is different. He possesses a gift, a sensitivity to the unseen world inherited from his bloodline from me.
He reached out a translucent hand, his touch sending a jolt of energy through our son's body.
I latched onto his essence, sought refuge in his innocence, not to harm but to protect. The island is a conduit, a place where the veil between worlds is thin. It amplifies his abilities but also makes him vulnerable. He is a beacon, drawing to him both the light and the darkness.
He fixed his gaze on us, his eyes filled with a pleading.
You must teach him to control his gift, to harness its power. He is the bridge between worlds, the key to restoring balance.
The darkness that had haunted us, the fear that had consumed us, began to dissipate, replaced by a glimmer of hope. We were not facing this alone. Ethan, bound to our son, would guide him, protect him. We just had to trust, to believe, to help our son navigate the extraordinary path that lay before him. The ground beneath our feet pulsed with a growing power, a hum that resonated deep within our bones. Ethan, his form flickering like a candle flame in a strong wind, drew back from our son, his spectral hand lingering in the space between them. The boy, his eyes now wide and alert, no longer vacant, but filled with a strange knowing, turned towards us. His lips moved, but the voice that emerged was not his own.
They are coming. The guardians of the threshold, the keepers of the balance. They sense a disturbance, a convergence.
The air crackled with energy, the very forest around us seeming to strain against an unseen force. The temperature plummeted, a bone-chilling cold that cut through our clothes, stole our breath. The shadows within the clearing deepened, writhed, taking on menacing shapes that darted just beyond the periphery of our vision. Whispers, ancient and chilling, slithered through the trees, pronouncements in a language we couldn't understand, yet felt deep within our souls. A fear, primal and overwhelming, threatened to consume us.
They demand equilibrium. They seek to restore what has been disrupted. The boy, he is the key.
The shadowy figures, no longer content to lurk at the edges of the clearing, began to converge, swirling around the circle, their forms becoming more distinct, more menacing. They were neither human nor animal, yet possessing aspects of both, elongated limbs, glowing eyes, a palpable aura of power that sent a tremor through the very earth. They were grotesque, yet strangely beautiful, their forms both repellent and alluring. They were the stuff of nightmares, given form, and they were here for our son.
Terror, raw and primal, threatened to cripple me, to root me to the spot. But as I looked at my son, his small frame trembling, his eyes reflecting the swirling chaos of the clearing, a surge of protective fury washed over me. I would not let them take him. He was mine, ours, entrusted to us by fate, by a force beyond even the ancient power these creatures wielded. Stop! Leave him be. He has done nothing to you.
The shadowy figures paused in their advance, their glowing eyes fixated on him, their whispers momentarily silenced. The air crackled with anticipation, with a power so intense it felt as though the very air might ignite. The father held his breath, his heart pounding against his ribs, bracing himself for their wrath, their judgment.
One of the figures, taller than the others, its form shifting, coalescing into something resembling a grotesque parody of a human, detached from the group, gliding towards me. It stopped a few feet away, its eyes, glowing with an otherworldly light, seeming to peer into my very soul, judging my worth, my resolve.
The boy belongs to this place. He is of this island of the convergence. He cannot escape his destiny.
Before the father could respond, a small hand slipped into his. He looked down to see his son, his eyes reflecting a strange calm.
It's all right, Dad. They mean me no harm.
The boy stepped forward, releasing his father's hand, his small frame dwarfed by the towering presence.
I am of this island. I embrace my destiny.
A wave of energy emanated from him, washing over the clearing, pushing back the shadowy figures. The swirling vortex of energy descended, enveloping the boy in a blinding light. The parents shielded their eyes, their hearts pounding in unison with the island's rhythm. Their son was gone, claimed by a destiny they couldn't fully comprehend. The clearing fell silent, the only sound the gentle rustling of leaves. Only the faint scent of ozone lingered, a testament to the power unleashed. They knew their lives were forever changed, bound to the island and its secrets. The island, once a place of fear, became their sanctuary, their prison, their only link to the son they had lost. They couldn't leave, not that they wanted to. The island held him, held a piece of their hearts. They were drawn to its wild beauty, its ancient magic, like moths to a flame. They made the cottage their home, its walls echoing with memories of their son.
Life was different now, forever altered by our journey. We lived in the space between worlds, the ordinary infused with the extraordinary. We were no longer just parents, but guardians of a legacy.
Their son, though physically absent, was a constant presence in their lives. They felt him in the rustling of leaves, the crashing of waves, the whispers of the wind. He communicated with them through dreams, his voice a soothing presence in the darkness, his laughter a balm to their grieving hearts. He was learning, growing, mastering the abilities that were his birthright. He was a bridge between worlds, a conduit of energy, his very existence challenging the boundaries of what they thought they knew, expanding their understanding of the universe and their place within it. They knew that one day, when the time was right, when the balance had been restored, he would return to them, forever changed by his experiences. Yet still, their son, the boy who had stolen their hearts and opened their eyes to the magic that lay hidden beneath the surface of the ordinary.
Until then, we would honor his journey, protect his legacy, and embrace the extraordinary gift of his existence. We would live our lives with open hearts and open minds, forever changed by our encounter with the unseen world, forever grateful for the love that bound us, even across the chasm of dimensions. The island was our home now, a place of both sorrow and solace, where the veil between worlds shimmered and the impossible whispered on the wind.